Hi, everyone. Hopefully you guys had a great summer. Um, I'm making this presentation to help you guys transition to our online learning. As you guys heard Governor Newsom and Superintendent McClay talk about a rigorous online model that includes synchronous, asynchronous, and independent work. So what is that going to look like? How do we do it? What strategies can we implement while making sure our teaching is still effective? So we're going to go over a couple of things. Right now, the welcome, I'm going to talk about what synchronous asynchronous is, how to make sure our math is effective still, and then I'm going to break down specific strategies, techniques that we could do in Canvas to make our synchronous instruction effective, and then same thing for asynchronous and independent work. So you're going to get some strategies, some tips of how to do this. So one thing that we have to remember as math teachers is that to make our instruction effective is we have to follow these 8 standards of mathematical practice. They were created in 2010 by the National Governors Association Center of Best Practices. And so we know these. We have posters in our room. This presentation is not about how to do this, but we need to keep these in mind. When we do this, we know that our teaching is effective. And as we learned in our Julie Dixon training a couple of years ago, that the best way to make these 8 practices happen, okay, is to use highly cognitive learning tasks and how to create those. And so how do we do that in online learning? How do we continue to use task and group work and collaboration while we're in an online model? And so we're going to go through some strategies there. And we have our 8 mathematical teaching practices, okay, put out by NCTM, okay, in their book, Principles to Action. Again, this is what we should be doing when we're making lessons and teaching. So as we do our online lessons, we need to make sure that we're still doing and using these 8 mathematical teaching practices, which again, when you build and use tasks, okay, you're doing this. So we need to make sure that we continue to do that. And so most of the strategies I'm going to go over, especially in the synchronous part, we'll talk about using tasks. But we also know we have to teach proficiency in our skills and procedures. So I'm going to talk about some programs that really will make that effective online as well, and how to teach direct instruction online without losing engagement from your students. So that's what we're going to be working on today. We know that you guys both have, everyone has both of these books, Principles to Action and Mathematics for Teaching, Making Sense of It. We've received both of these books after our trainings. So I would recommend, if you have questions about tasks and stuff, you go there to get them. And think back to our training that we have. Before I talk about techniques for synchronous learning, I wanted to make sure everyone understands what synchronous learning is. Synchronous learning occurs when learners and instructors are interacting in real time, okay, typically through delivery platforms such as Zoom, Google Meets. And so we're used to that in our classroom. Every day when we're face-to-face with our classroom, that's synchronous learning because we're interacting together in real time. They have a question, I get to answer it. They could communicate with their classmates, they can communicate with me. That's all synchronous. So we need to take that live feel from a classroom and make it happen even though everyone is sitting in front of a computer screen at their home. So that's going to be part of our discussion that we're going to be talking in some of these lessons. I like this right here. The main benefit of synchronous learning is that it encourages learning mentality in students through peer interactions, since they are in communication with each other throughout the learning process. That's a big piece that we missed during distance learning in the spring, is that the kids weren't really interacting with each other. So synchronous learning can be with teacher interacting with the kids or the kids interacting with the kids. So if you want to do your direct instruction through synchronous learning, we could talk about ways to do that to make it engaging. But really the synchronous time, we want kids in small groups interacting with each other. So they still have that feel. And I think we're going to be required to have 2 hours of synchronous time every week. So we want to keep that in mind, how to use that best. Okay. Again, pros, group activities can be included, ideas and opinions can be shared with co-learners, and doubts can be clarified instantaneously from peers or from teachers. The cons, it lacks flexibility because everyone has to be there at a certain time, just like in school. Emphasis is given on groups than individual, so I don't know if that's really a con, but you're working with groups, and we have a set time for individual work, so I think we're okay there. And it says increased dependency on instructors. So, I mean, just like in class, they have access to you, and they'll do that in synchronous as well. And what is asynchronous learning? I like to think of it like if you've ever done a flipped classroom where you've had the kids watch a Khan Academy video or a video that you've made or read a certain passage in a book before they come to class. So they're coming to class prepared. That's what asynchronous is. We now have to design online content for our kids to have access to. Videos we make, YouTube videos, Khan Academy, and these videos have to be interactive, so you need to make sure there's questions at the end of them for the kids to participate in, a worksheet that's attached, a quiz through Canvas. Edpuzzles is a great website that does this. So we need to work on building asynchronous instruction so the kids have access to it. Kids like this, at least they did in my summer school class, because they didn't have to do it during that time period from 7:30 to 8:30 for first period. Once they got to the asynchronous part, they could do it just by the due date, right? The big strength there is the flexibility. Kids have access to it all the time. They could do it whenever they have a moment to do it. They say the pros is no time constraint. I put a little asterisk next to that. Obviously, we have due dates, right? They need to do it before our next synchronous meeting or whatever due date you put on the assignment. But they could do it at 11 o'clock at night, at 6 in the morning or during the class time. So it gives them the freedom of time, not that there are no constraints. Again, you got to learn at your own pace. They could pause, they could rewatch, they could do all these things with videos that they can't do to a teacher in real life. So it gives them that flexibility to slow down or speed up, because you could actually watch videos at 1.5 times, 2 times. So some people might speed up. Some people need to pause and rewind. And it promotes learning from vast resources. So it's just not like the teacher is the only source of knowledge. They could look up things on YouTube. We post different presentations, different videos, and so they have more access to the information, the content. Problems with it, it does lack personal interaction, so you're not really interacting live with anybody. So when you have a question, it's like you need to find the solution on your own, or you send an email, and then now there's time in between your question and your answer. It's not instantaneously. The use of discussion boards where you post questions and then everyone could provide feedback. So that is what asynchronous is. Okay, so the next part of our instruction here, of our development here, is I'm going to dive into synchronous, asynchronous, and independent different strategies here. So all these things in the background have links to YouTube videos on how to. Some are slides, some are websites. So there's more resources for you to click on and find help about anything. I really like this one. This is a teacher's website that I found. She's been doing online synchronous learning now for, she said, the last 8 years. So she has some very good examples of how to make kids interact through small group breakout rooms and stuff. So she's got a lot of PD on her website that you guys could jump on and watch. All right, so anytime you're watching the synchronous stuff and you get overwhelmed, you can pause the video, click on this one. It's going to take you to a nice little relaxing view where you can join me in a room. We can look at the beach, watch the waves crash, listen to the river run. So if you ever feel overwhelmed, you just need a little break, right? Click on that Keep Calm poster and you can relax for a little bit. So let's go ahead and get started and go to the next slide and watch the video on synchronous learning.